Hey everyone, it's Microwave Sam. On October 12, 2014, I created this video, how to set up Node Express on AWS EC2. Now it's May 22, 2016, and it's about time to update this video. Instead of showing how to set up Node Express, I'll show you how to set up Node Express, MongoDB, Bower, and Gulp. Now to get started, I'll explain each of these very quickly. Node.js, it's a JavaScript runtime. Non-blocking I/O means it's asynchronous, lightweight and efficient. People like it because of NPM, Node Package Manager. It's a large ecosystem. You type in npm install, installs a lot of these open source libraries provided by developers. Next up, Express. Express is a minimalistic web framework. The reason why people use Node.js with Express is because you want to make a website. You want it to be really organized. Express provides a framework for Node.js to be really organized and easy to use. Now for MongoDB. MongoDB is a NoSQL database. Why would you use a NoSQL database? NoSQL databases are perfect for changing data types. If your data is constantly changing in its format, then NoSQL and possibly MongoDB is for you. A lot of people have been using Node.js with MongoDB together. Bower is a package manager for the web. Now, Bower is mainly used for CSS, styling, and JavaScript dependencies. For example, if you need Bootstrap, if you need jQuery, if you need any JavaScript dependency or styling, then use Bower because it will download everything inside a Bower modules folder and everything will be pretty organized. Gulp. Gulp is used to automate tasks. What it's useful for is, let's say you need a command. For instance, I'm going to be using Gulp with Sass. What Sass is, it's a type of CSS language, but it provides things like nesting and importing, which CSS does not have naturally. So you can have Gulp do the translation from Sass to CSS, and you can have this automated. Right. Now, before we get started, I'm using Windows 10. And on Windows 10, I would highly recommend you to use a Unix terminal. It's not absolutely necessary, but if you had to get a Unix terminal, download Cygwin first. This is step one. Download Cygwin. Get that Linux feeling on Windows. You can download it because the download links are on the front page. All links will be in the description. I have the 64-bit installation. I will not do this step because I already have it. But download one of these executables and then get Cygwin running. Next up, get Node.js. When you visit the Node.js website, it will automatically detect what operating system you have and how many bits it has. Mine is Windows 64-bit. I will get the version 6.2.0 current. Instead of showing you these download steps that you'll definitely know how to do either way, just follow the default download and installation steps and get Node.js running. After you have Node.js running, if you search Node.js on a Windows machine, you will have it on your command prompt. There are many different ways to install Node.js on a Mac and Linux machine, and I'll leave it up to you to find out which way is your preferred method. But for Windows users, just download it straight from the Node.js website. Next up, MongoDB. We don't need to get Express because Express will be gotten through NPM, the Node Package Manager that comes with Node.js. Now for MongoDB, if you visit this link, I'll leave it in the description. We'll select either Community Server or any of these different options, but Community Server is great for local development. I'll select Windows because that's my operating system, and the version, you can leave it by default. You can download the MSI, which is just executable, and you can set up MongoDB. Just use the default setup for MongoDB, and you should be fine. Now, Bower and Gulp will be installing those two with NPM. I'm going to write a blog post with all the instructions in this page, in this video, I mean. So if you have any questions, you can always refer to these text instructions on my blog post. But I'll upload it and provide you the link in the description. Now, the first thing that we do is we've already installed Node.js. So the best match Node.js command prompt, we want to click on it and open it up. This is what it looks like. Your typical command prompt, but it just says Node.js command prompt. First thing that we want to do is we want to use npm install. I mentioned that npm install is used to install all npm packages. And the first thing that we want to install is express-generator with this --ejs, like so. So write this command, it'll also be in the description, and hit enter. Express generator is used to create a typical Express template. Express-generator is installed. Now the next thing we want to install is we want to install Bower and Gulp. So we can leave two packages to install on the same line. I forgot to mention that -G stands for global, and what that means is that it's installed globally on our system, on our computer. We hit enter on this because we want to install Bower and Gulp. Now we wait a couple seconds. I'll be updating my blog post as I do this video. This should finish in a couple more seconds. Just have to wait a little bit. But in the meanwhile, I guess we can move on to the next step. The next step is to add Sequin to our environment path. What that does is that with our terminal right now, we have access to some Unix commands, but not all of them. For example, some useful commands like ls are not within the command prompt. Instead, we have to type in something called dir, which is kind of annoying. So, what I like to do is add Sequin to the environment path so that we can access all the commands within Sequin bin inside our command prompt. So how we do that is we hit this little folder button. We go to this PC, we right click and hit properties. After we hit right click and hit properties, we can go to advanced system settings. At advanced system settings, we can click on environment variables. And we'll scroll down to path. The system variable path, we want to hit edit. We'll see a list of environment variables, and we want to add a new one. So we hit the new button. And what we want to add is, first, what we want to do is find where we installed Sequin. So I installed Sequin on my desktop right here, and it's in a folder. And I'll double click it so that this pops up. Now after this pops up, we want to go to the bin folder. Double click on it. And once we have that open, we want to click at the top and then right click and copy this. And we'll add it as a new entry in our environment variable. Hit new, paste, and then hit OK. Now Sequin commands inside this bin folder will be accessible by the command prompt. We should probably have to close this out first before we do that. Open up the Node.js command prompt again and hit ls. ls lists all the contents in the directory. Now the next step is we should have a text editor. Text editors like Sublime, Atom, Notepad++, any of these will work. I'll leave a link to Sublime Text because that's the one I'm going to use. Alright, let's close this out. Open a new one. Cancel. Now, Sublime Text is open. And what we want to do is we want to create a new folder where we'll keep everything. So what I'll do is I'll open up Sequin. I can also do this on the command prompt. I guess it's better to show you all these steps on the command prompt because some of you might not have Sequin. I'll close this out. Now, on our Node.js command prompt, we have access to all the Sequin commands. So this is basically our Unix terminal at the moment. Where we want to go is, it states where we are right now. It says we're at users/my username. Now, I made a folder in desktop, and using cd, stands for change directory. So I'm changing directory to my desktop, and basically I go from point A to point B. And I'm going to the folder that I created for this project. cd work, cd repos, cd node. And if I hit tab, it auto-completes. So this is the folder I created for the project. To create folders, what you can do is type in the command mkdir, which stands for make directory, and you state a folder name. And this is the folder that will be created. If I hit enter, it says that a subdirectory or file with that name already exists, because I already created a folder. But I'll be going into that folder, using tab to autocomplete, and hit enter. pwd is a useful command for printing working directory. Let me close this out. This is kind of annoying. This is also a GitHub repo, so I'll be uploading all of the code that we do on GitHub. Now, pwd shows you where we are right now. I'm inside that folder. Now for the next step. The next step is to use Express. The Express generator, I mean. Now, to use Express generator, we literally just type Express and dot. What dot does is that dot refers to the current folder we're in, and this is the current folder we're in. We're in the folder I created. So we'll create the Express template inside this folder. We hit enter. We hit Y because destination is not empty, and it will create all of these files. So what happens? If we go to that directory, we'll see all of these new files. A bin folder. Bin folder contains the command for starting up the web server. Public contains all the JavaScript, all the style sheets that we need for styling and making our website look pretty. Routes refer to rendering the views. Views refer to templates. And app.js starts up the whole Node.js Express template. And package.json refers to npm dependencies, no package manager dependencies. To better demonstrate, I'll open up Sublime. I was working on a project earlier today, but I'll open up the folder again, like so. Find a folder, hit select folder. That's how you use Sublime. I'll close this out. Hit no on all of these. It's an old project. Now, we have Node Express Bower Gulp template. Here's what everything looks like. How it all starts. Package.json. The Express template refers to some dependencies, and these are the dependencies listed. That's all you need to know, really. If you use npm install, it will refer to package.json and install all of these dependencies. App.js. This is the hub point. This is the controller. What controls everything. It has a lot of lines for dependencies, different node packages, but it sets everything up. And the main important thing is that it sets these things up called routes. Here are the routes. The routes refer to this folder with these two files. But the more important one is this index.js file. The first thing that you will notice is router.get /. The / refers to the home page. On the second line, it says res.render index. These render lines refer to views. The views are basically templates. And what these templates are is that these templates are empty files. The templates refer to creating the HTML that goes to a website. And the routes say and control how we will use those templates. So in this case, it renders a view called index and the title :express. So it gave it a variable. So when we look at index.jade, you'll see all of this mumbo jumbo. Index.jade. Extends layout. This syntax looks really weird. So we're going to get rid of this. Basically, h1 equals title. Title refers to the variable. Index.js. You can see here the title was express. It's just saying title is equal to express. And if we look at index.jade, it says header1 title. Now, Jade is this template language that generates HTML. It's not as robust, so you have fewer lines, but it gets really confusing, and I don't like it. So we're going to delete the Jade files. You may already have EJS files inside of views. If you do, keep them there. But if you don't, we will have to get some express EJS files. So I'm going to do a Google search. The generator has a GitHub repo, and it has the EJS files. Basically, we want to grab these two files and then save them inside views because we are going to use something more natural to us. If you're interested in web development, you start off with HTML. That you get the hang of it. And EJS is very similar to HTML. The only difference is that variables passed by the routes to the views have this syntax. It starts with this header, less than, percentage equals, and then it has the percentage greater than sign. And that's how variables are called into EJS files. But for everything else, it looks like your typical HTML file. These headers, these ending tags, easy. Alright, we'll open this up by copying all the contents. We'll go back to Sublime, create a couple of new files. This one is put into the views, because views are the templates, right? And we will call it index.egs, paste, save. Now we'll create one for the error.egs. These files may have already been created if you did express generator with the EJS flag, but for me, I forgot to uninstall express generator with just the Jade stuff, so it did not automatically create the EJS files. So I'll save this as error.egs, go back here, go to error.egs, copy, and paste, and save. Now we have the two files. Error refers to any errors that happen with Node. It will show in the web page the error and the message contained. Index.egs has a simple thing where it just says welcome to title. In the title, like I said before, just to repeat myself, router.get, homepage. If I go to the website, here's the title that's passed. You can pass in variables, and it renders index. So it points to this index.egs. One last thing that we need to do. We need to go to app.js, and it says Jade right now, because the template engine by default is Jade. We want to change Jade to EJS. And save. But we're not done yet. Over here, in our package.json that lists all the dependencies of our project, it says Jade. We don't want this line anymore. We're not going to use Jade. We're going to delete this line. Line 13. And save. Now, if we delete Jade, well, we need to have the EJS dependency. So we have to go back to our terminal, and we have to install EJS inside the package.json file. So how Node Package Manager works, npm works, is that it tries to look for a package.json wherever you run the command. If there does exist a package.json, it will try to install these dependencies that are listed inside the package.json. That's how npm works. Now we'll install EJS by using npm install EJS -- save. What this -- save refers to is that it'll say that it will save to a package.json file. So it will save inside this list of dependencies. We hit enter. Now, EJS is integrated inside our package.json. After we hit that command, EJS was added in our list of dependencies. All the dependencies are in alphabetical order. Now afterwards, when we first created the Express template, it said that we should install dependencies. Because this is a new project, we haven't installed the rest of these dependencies. At the moment, it's not important to know what all of these do, except some of them are self-explanatory, like debugging for errors on the project. So all we do is type in npm install, like so, and then hit enter. And it will just install the rest of these dependencies that we have not installed yet. Now, it will install all these dependencies, and we have set up EJS properly. Now the next step is Bower, and what we want to do with Bower is, like I said earlier in the video, they're useful for styling and JavaScript dependencies. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to use a couple of popular styling dependencies, Bootstrap and Font Awesome. Bootstrap is used for really neat styling. It's not too creative, but it's really useful for just setting up a new website. And Font Awesome is really great for icons and very good looking icons. That's the main thing that I use it for. So what we need to do is we need to initiate it. So how we initiate it is we use the command bower init and hit enter. We can leave most of these by default. We just keep on hitting enter. And then we can hit Y on all of these. So this is what I just did. It asked a couple questions, name, description, main file, etc. It asked if I want to add commonly ignored files, and then it printed out this JSON. And then last but not least, you hit Y because it looks good. Now what happens is that a new file is created in our folder. It's called bower.json. Bower.json is very similar to package.json. Think of it as the equivalent to package.json, but for Bower. Now, how Bower works is almost exactly like how NPM works. Bower is used for installing dependencies. So, we can use the command bower install to install all of our dependencies. We are going to install bootstrap-sass and font awesome. And -- save. The save command works the same way it does as npm. We hit enter. If you don't know what Sass is, I briefly explained that it was a translation tool. It's its own language, CSS-like, but it adds extra functionality like nesting, importing, some good stuff. So that's why we're going to use Sass in this tutorial. Because if you're creating a really robust website, I'd highly recommend Sass for just organization and its usefulness and extra functionality alone. Now, if we take a look at the bower.json file, 2 extra dependencies were added to the file that we didn't see before. It's bootstrap-sass and font awesome. Now for the next step is that we are going to set up Gulp. But before we set up Gulp, we have to set up Sass, because Sass doesn't come with a Windows machine by default. So how we set up Sass is, go to this link. I'll leave a link in the description. This is for Sass. You have the option not to use Sass if you would just prefer CSS, but I highly recommend it because organization means a lot nowadays. When websites grow really big, a lot of people are using your website. This is really essential for creating good styling. First thing that we need to do is install Ruby. Sass depends on Ruby, so we need to install Ruby. I installed the latest version of it, which is this link over here. And I downloaded it and installed Ruby. Just leave everything by default. Ruby is just a programming language that you should install. Next step is the development kit. After you install Ruby, get the development kit that applies to your Ruby version. For instance, I got 2.3, and because I got 2.3, I would use this bottom one for use with Ruby 2.0 and above. Alright, so after you download that, here's how it's going to work. Just do the Ruby setup, and then I'll show you how to set up the development kit. On my desktop, I have the file, DevKit, right here. Now, let me delete this old folder to show you how the installation works. Create a new folder. I'm going to call it Ruby-Dev. Now, double-click and open the DevKit. Hit these triple dots. Find Ruby Dev and hit OK. Extract. Now, DevKit will extract all of these files inside of Ruby-Dev. And then afterwards, we're going to install something called Gems. Now, Ruby and Gems is another package manager for Ruby. And gems works nearly the same way as npm. You do gem install to do installations of packages. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do gem install Sass after we've set up Ruby gems. And to set up Ruby gems, we need to extract the DevKit to ruby-dev. It's going to finish in a couple seconds, so I'm just going to wait until it finishes. Alright, after extracting is done, open the folder. Hold Shift on your keyboard. Right-click. Open command window here pops up. Click on it. The CMD pops up, the command prompt. And it says that we are in desktop Ruby Dev because if you open command window here, it pops up within the folder. Now what we'll do. We will initiate this dkrb file. How we do that is, first, we need to check that we installed Ruby properly. Type in ruby-v. It shows what version of Ruby we have. I'm going to add this to the blog post very quickly so that I remember that you should always check if you have the language installed properly. So after you check that, the command that we're going to do now is ruby space dkrb. Dkrb is a file inside this folder, init. Initialization complete. Now we want to install it. So do the same command, but install. I just did init, and now I'll do install. Hit enter. It installed it. So, how we can check if we install gem properly is we type gem. We can see that it has usage examples, further help. So gem was a detected command. So we know that gem is working properly. Next thing that we want to do, gem space install Sass, because we want to install Sass. Hit enter. Now while it's installing Sass, let's set up our folders so that we can integrate Sass easily. I mentioned that public folder is for your styling in JavaScripts and images. We'll right click, new folder, and create a folder called Sass inside here for all of our Sass files. Now we'll right click, new file, and we'll save a new file called style.scss, and we'll put it in the Sass folder, like so. Now, .scss is the extension name for Sass files. We'll save. It's empty at the moment. Now, let's go back to whether or not Sass installed already. Done installing after 3 seconds. Very quick install. 1 gem installed. It should say this if it was successful. Now, let's get to the Gulp stuff. So, first thing that we do is we need to install some dependencies for Gulp. Now, Gulp uses some extra dependencies with npm. So what we'll do is we'll install these dependencies. npm space install. Now, I mentioned to you earlier a little bit how Gulp was an automation machine. It's an automation little tool. What it's useful for is, let's say that we were writing a lot of Sass. If we want to convert Sass to CSS, normally we would have to type in Sass space the name of the Sass file colon the name of the CS file we want to convert the Sass file to. And that takes a lot of time because we'd have to write that command every single time we're like, oh, this is a good change. Let's see if it works well in CSS. And that takes a lot of time, so we want to automate it. That's the reason why we're using Gulp. So we use npm install Gulp, space npm install gulp-sass, gulp-notify for notifications, gulp space bower to automate bower installations, gulp-auto prefixer. And then at the very end, we do a different flag called save-dev. What save-dev does is it saves into this development portion of the JSON file. And this development portion of the JSON file means that only do this on development builds of our website. So what I mean by that is, you only need Gulp when you're developing. You don't need it when you ship it off on AWS and you're letting thousands of people use your website. You only need Gulp when you're developing. So we only save it in development. We hit enter. So what will happen is all of these Gulp dependencies and Gulp itself will be installed inside the package.json, and I'll show you what it looks like. We'll have to wait a couple seconds until this whole thing installs. Well, in the meanwhile, we can focus on how Gulp works. So Gulp uses this thing called a gulp file.js. We need to create it. I would recommend to create it on this side, where the package.json and bower.json are. Right, file, new file, save as, gulp file.js. Now, I've written a small gulp file in the blog post. I'll paste it, copy and paste. And this is what a gulp file looks like. To explain, these variables refer to packages that we've just installed. Require is a way to import the packages. These configurations are just setting these variable names to these directories, to these folders, so that I don't have to type in the full folder every time. This is how Gulp works. Gulp uses tasks, and these tasks are given by a name. Inside these curly braces are what you want the task to do. Bower package would just install the Bower dependencies based on this bower.json. Fonts copies the font awesome fonts into a folder called fonts. CSS converts the style.scss to this style.css. Gulp watch, if you hit Gulp watch, then it will watch if any of the files inside this folder with the extension .scss changes. It will perform this CSS task. So this is the part that Gulp is most useful for me. Whenever I change my SCSS, I want it to convert to CSS immediately. I want to see that change happen live. And this watch task does exactly that. And then gulp.taskDefault. Gulp.taskDefault refers to just the regular gulp command. And it triggers these three tasks. We'll save this file. Now, Gulp dependencies are finished downloading. Let's go to our style.scss. We want to add two things. We installed these dependencies in our bower underscore components, bootstrap dash sass, font dash awesome. Now, to show you the usefulness of .scss or sass, I'll use the import command. In quotes, I want to put bootstrap. And then I'll also import font awesome. Alright. So with these two imports, what it will do is import all the contents here and bring them. Style.scss becomes style.css. So let's take a look at what style.css looks at the moment. Just body A, it's nothing too big. But let's say that we could just do a couple imports and then change this whole file. What we'll do now is type in a simple command, gulp. What gulp refers to, if we go back to gulp file.js, it refers to this, the default task. The default task that triggers these three tasks, bower, fonts, and CSS. Let's take a look at what happens. We'll hit enter here. Now, it finished these tasks. It says starting, finish, starting, finish. And if we take a look at style.css, bootstrap. It just imported all bootstrap. And if we search font awesome, it also imported font awesome into this one file. It's really convenient importing. The organization is top notch with Sass. Some people like to use less. It's up to your preference. But using Sass or less, these languages that add functionality to CSS for organization as well as just this additional functionality, It's really useful. Now, let me demonstrate to you how Gulp Watch works. Gulp just triggers the 3 tasks every single time you run it. But what Gulp Watch does is that it constantly runs. So what it says is that it started watch. And this thing will continually run as long as you have this command window open. How does this work? Let's say that I want to adjust my style.scss. I'm going to add some weird styling like body, color, blue. And I control S to save. Now I added this line. What happens? This happens. The watch command triggered starting CSS whenever files inside this folder change. So we see the folder public/sass/star.scss. That refers to public folder, Sass, and everything inside the Sass folder, which is this file. So whenever I change the style.scss, if I have Gulp Watch running, then it will add it to style.css. Easy way to check. Let's search for the change that I just added. It's at the bottom. It was added. Let's do something even more crazy. Let's change color blue to white. We won't even be able to say anything. The translation happens. So how you develop with Gulp is that you have Gulp Watch running, and then you just apply all your styling, and then everything is formatted within these style.scss files. Now, it won't go too in-depth with Sass, because that's not the point of the tutorial. What the interesting thing is, you can create a bunch of these files, and then have really organized styling. That's the best part of Sass. That's why you would use Sass. Alright, so I've already explained Gulp. We already demonstrated how Gulp Watch works. To stop this command, you can also hold Control-C, and it terminates the bash job. You hit Y, it terminates. The changes still are in place, but if I add this and change it to, let's say, black, and save it, it won't change. You need to have Gulp Watch running. Alternatively, you can just type in Gulp every single time. It'll run all 3 tasks, and then it changes and translates the SCSS to CSS. Wow, I think I explained a lot in this video, but last but not least, before I wrap this video up and then show you more database stuff, MongoDB in the next video, let's type in npm start. npm start is how you start this web server up. It's how you start Node and Express. Hit enter at npm start. Port 3000 is already in use. Alright. Something is using port 3000. Let me think what it is first. Let me open the task manager. Basically, by default, Node uses port 3000. And I have Node running, apparently, right here. So task manager shows that Node is running. I'll just stop this. It's probably something that lingered from the last time I used Node. Now let's go back to the command, npm start. The great thing about Node is that it not only shows you errors that are happening within the command prompt, but it will show it to you on the website too. Let's do npm start again. Now it's working. So what do we do now? How do we visit the site? How do we see what's happening? We open up a new tab. We go to localhost 3000. We see Express. We hit enter. This is what it looks like. Express, welcome to Express. Cool. So it's working. This represents the slash page. And now, let's say that we want to add another page. We only have the slash right now. Let's say that I want to add another page called the microwave SAM page. We're going to type in microwave SAM here. So now it's going to be localhost 3000/microwave SAM. And instead of rendering index, remember, these indexes refer to the views over here. So index just refers to this EJS file. We're going to type microwave Sam. And for the title, we're going to call it microwave Sam. Now this is how you create new pages on your website. We'll copy this index.ejs, create a new file, save as microwavesam.ejs. We'll paste this here, and instead of welcome to, I'll say the man, comma, and save this file. Now, what else can we add? Well, let's demonstrate how, again, that Gulp watch is working properly. Let's open up a new Node.js command prompt. Let's see, and now I'm just going to cd all the way to this folder. Alright, cd desktop, cd work, cd repo, cd node, tab. Alright, now I'm in the right folder. Now we'll initiate Gulp watch. This is how I would develop. Have two terminals running. One is running npm, one is running Gulp watch. Now, instead of having the body color black, let's just set it up to blue. Save it. And now, we should restart our node npm server. Hold Control-C, or press Control-C. It says terminate batch job. Hit Y for yes. npm start again. Now, if we revisit the page, everything should be blue. So we're going to reload. Everything is blue. Gulp watch detects CSS changes. It changed the color. But let's go to that new page that we created, Microwave Sam. Hit enter. New page. Microwave Sam was the title variable. How you use title variables is over here, title. And then this is how you access the variables with this syntax. It's something that you get used to as you develop more and more with this setup. The last thing that I feel may be unclear is what if you have multiple variables that you want to add? Well, that's easy too. Just put a comma here. I'm going to add microwave Sam. And the code name for this variable is going to be kitchen appliance. Kitchen appliance. Okay. I probably spelled that wrong. I'm a little bit tired, so don't judge me if I spelled it wrong. Now, rendering microwave Sam, which is the view at EJS, has an extra variable that we can use called microwave Sam, and what it contains is kitchen appliance. So we'll open up the microwave sam.ejs, and we'll add a paragraph. And I'll change this to he sells a, and instead of title, I'll put in microwave Sam. He sells a microwave Sam. That makes a lot of sense. Alright, so we will Control-C here, and then reinitiate npm start, and refresh this page. And now it says he sells a kitchen appliance. So that's how you add additional variables and how you access all the variables. Now there's a lot more things that we can go over with EJS, but I think I've covered the bare essentials. And to make this tutorial series kind of brief and give you room to explore for yourselves, next video will focus on how do you create a sign-in page, how do you create users, how do you use a database like MongoDB with this setup efficiently. Thanks for watching the first part. Let me know if you have any questions. There was a lot of stuff that we cover over this video. I'll try to answer all the questions, and be sure to look at the blog post. I'll leave a link in the description of all of these commands. Thanks for watching.